The timeline of so-called U.S. history is full of contradictions and gaps. If George Washington was only made president in 1789, that leaves hundreds of years of missing leadership. Who was really running things before that? Let's break it down. Who was in power before Washington? If the U.S. was founded in 1776 and Washington became president in 1789, then who was running things before? The truth is, the Moors, indigenous rulers, and black civilizations were in power long before colonization. The Washita Moors and other Aboriginal Americans governed their lands for thousands of years. The so-called Founding Fathers didn't create a nation, they took over one that was already here. Examples of pre-colonial leadership in America. The Washita Moors controlled much of North America and were recognized in treaties. The Olmecs, black civilizations in Mexico, built pyramids thousands of years before European contact. The Mississippian mound builders had massive cities with centralized leadership. If George Washington was the first president under the U.S. Constitution, that means hundreds of years of governance are unaccounted for. Before Washington, the timeline is purposely unclear, but here's what we know. Pre-colonial America had leaders. Indigenous and Moorish nations had governments, trade, and military power before Europeans arrived. European colonizers wrote them out of history to make it seem like they discovered an empty land. And before Washington, there were 8 presidents under the Articles of Confederation, from 1781 to 1789. But history doesn't talk about them. Colonial governors were in power. Before the U.S. government, colonial governors from Britain, Spain, and France ruled over different regions. But even these governors had to negotiate with the indigenous and Moorish rulers who already controlled the land. If the U.S. was founded in 1776, but European colonizers were here since 1492, then what was happening in the 284 years in between? Who was ruling America before the Constitution? The real rulers were the indigenous Moors, Washita, and Black Indian tribes who governed the land. The idea that the U.S. suddenly became a nation in 1776 is a lie. They took over an existing structure and claimed it as their own. The U.S. government is a hijacked system. The real leadership of America was Moorish and indigenous before colonization. The so-called Founding Fathers did not create a nation. They took over an existing system. The historical timeline is broken on purpose to erase black and indigenous power.